You're listening to The Hikam with Shaykh Zahir Bacchus of the Lotri Foundation. In this podcast, Shaykh Zahir explains the aphorisms from Ibn Ata'illah's famous book of wisdoms, Al-Hikam Al-Ata'iyah, a classical manual of spiritual development. Visit seekershub.org for online courses, our reliable answer service, and engaging media.
اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما بفضلك وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم آمين. So we're reading this book, The Hikam Ata'illah, with a commentary on it. The Hikam are wisdoms, book of wisdoms, of etiquette of the servant to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the servant who wants to draw closer to his Lord. And so he writes, Ibn Ata'illah, which was one of the great scholars of the past, in the 12th, 15th century, in Upper Egypt, in Iskandar, in Alexandria, a very renowned scholar. And so he wrote on the servant wanting to draw himself closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and through not just ibadat, through looking at himself and correcting his mannerisms to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because there's etiquette of the servant, khuluq. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, this is khuluq, that he came. He said, I was sent in order to perfect the noble characteristics. So there's an adab, or there's a khuluq of character, of how we deal with one another, and dealing with people, and having a good nature with people, and being ethically strong, or having good morals, or having a good moral compass. All these terms are used to describe the relationship in terms of how you deal with people, and how you communicate, and how you socialize with them. The person with obviously khuluq, character, has a lot to do with what the fundamentals of the deen are. There are fundamentals of the deen. But there's a character, a khuluq of your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there are ethics concerning how you deal with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning, from what perspective? Meaning that the servant, there is a particular mannerism that you have to provide, or you have to give to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And those mannerisms is what the people of spirituality, part of it is what they write about. The mannerism of the servant to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so Ibn Ata'illah, rahmatullah alayhi, this great scholar, has written and captured in part of this work the mannerism of the servant to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The mannerism of the servant to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Looking at it from different areas, looking at it from different views, or looking at it from different jihad, or different directions that the servant needs to look at it from. And so he says, in number 20, he says, ما أرادت همة سالك أن تقف عندها كشف لها إلا ونادته هواتف حقيقة الذي تطلب أمامك ولا تبرجت له ظواهر المكونات إلا ونادته حقيقتها إنما نحن فتنة فلا تكفر. So he says, Ibn Ata'illah, ما أرادت همة سالك أن تقف عندما كشف لها. That the ambition, the himma, or the aspiration, the spiritual aspiration or the ambition of the traveler, the salik, the one who is traveling to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The salik is the one who wants closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The salik is the one who he has or she has ibadah, she or he performs worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but they want to make it more meaningful. They may come and they pray, and they may pray tahajjud, and they may pray not only the fard, but they pray the salatul duha, the nawafil or the sunnah salah, but they want something more out of it. They're not satisfied with just praying it and making the actions and the adhkar of it, but they want it to have an impact. They want to have an impact on their souls with it. So this is the traveler, this is the salik, who wants more than just the outward worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he says the ambition of this, or the aspiration, himma. And himma is a force that is the force that propels the servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is himma. That component, that force within oneself that inspires you or gives you aspiration to go further, or to stand longer, or to prostrate, or to hurry to the worship, or to want or to look for the next ibadah or the next opportunity to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the aspiration, this is himma. And there's levels of it. The ulama talk about levels of himma. There are people who have high, and they have low, and they have medium, and so on. But the traveler to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who wants closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he has himma, he has aspiration, he has an ambition. And that ambition is a force that impels him to, or propels him to do acts of ibadah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or to correct his mannerism to his Lord. It propels him and it helps him. So he says that the ambition of the spiritual traveler never seeks to halt with what has been lahu dhawahir mukawwanat, what has been shown to him of the world, of things. And so his spiritual ambition doesn't halt, or it doesn't stop when he's been shown what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants him to see. When that happens, he says, إِلَّا وَنَادَتْهُ هَوَاتِفُ فِي الْحَقِيقَةِ, except that a voice calls out to him, the voice of reality calls out to him. This is this traveler who wants closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If for a moment in his traveling or is in drawing closer to Allah, that he stops and he sees the marvels around him, or he contemplates over the good things that have come to him, or he sees what has been manifested to him, or what has been granted to him. If that happens, Ibn Ata'illah, he says that a voice, the voice of reality, calls out to him, and it says, "Alladhi tatlubu amamak." What you seek is still in front of you. What you seek is still in front of you. Meaning that do not stop at just the things that are manifested. If you have some sort of success in it, or you found some serenity in what you are doing, or you have some mutma'inna, that you have some tranquility, or you feel at ease, or you feel at peace. Do not stop. Do not stop. Because what you seek is still in front of you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You still seek and you still want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or you still have to be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So don't always seek betterment and always seek to be better. Always seek to gain more or to do more. Always seek for the next opportunity to do more goodness. And don't rely on the goodness that have been done or that you have done and the successes that has meted out for you, or the successes that have come about due to what you think is the acts of worship that you have done, or the people that you have inspired, or the ibadah that you have done, or the praises that people heap upon you, or the thankfulness that people have given to you, or the position of authority that people have placed upon you, or those who are happy with you, or joyful with you, or who are at ease with you. Don't stop in your trying to go even further in terms of your worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in terms of your closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because what has occurred. Because what has occurred is from the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but yet we don't know if it's accepted. So the traveler, his himmah propels him, his aspiration, his ambition should keep giving him or giving her the ability to go further, or to do more, or to have more quality in one's ibadah. And so this is what happens to the servant, he says. When it happens to the servant that perhaps they think that what they're doing is great, or they look upon the successes, that what happens is a blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings the person back to the reality by what? By a voice calling out, the reality of what hits the person, the traveler, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that whatever you are seeking is still in front of you. That whatever you're seeking, and you're seeking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that it is still in front of you. That you still have a far way to go. That you still have a far way to go. You know, sometimes, I'll give you an example. Sometimes people, when they donate, they may donate to people, or they may donate to a center, to a masjid, or they may donate to one of these charity groups, these NGOs that do good work. They may donate, and they may come to a point in which they may say to themselves, I've donated a lot this year. I've donated a lot this year. I've given a lot this year. They may say it. They may come to a point where they say that I've given all that I could. I've given all that I could. It may come to a point where they say this. The aspiration of the one who wants closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never considers anything to be sufficient. Never. The point of the one who going closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never looks at what has occurred or what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has facilitated. Never. The one who wants closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgets. He or she forgets about the past good deeds, whatever it may be. If it's terms of donation, they forget what they have given or what they have facilitated, and they look forward to the next opportunity of giving. If it's salah, then they look forward to the next opportunity of praying, and they forget about what they've done before. If it's in terms of helping others, they forget about all those that they have helped in the past, and they look forward to another opportunity to help someone even further. This is the spiritual traveler. This is the person who has the ambition, because the voice, that reality calls out. And what is the reality? It's the reality that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspires in the person to always want more closeness and to never be satisfied with what one has gotten. And that voice calls out and says, what you seek is still in front of you. And then Imam Ibn Ata'illah, he says, وَلَا تَبَرَّجَتْ لَهُ ظواهر المكونات إلا نوانادت حقيقتها إنما نحن فتنة فلا تكفر. And when the created things show their charms to him, when the created things show their beauty to him, let's say, what happens when the created things show their beauty to him? A voice calls out. A voice calls out. The realities call out to him. The reality of these things call out to him. And it says what? إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ فِتْنَةٌ, which is the ayah in Surah Al-Baqarah 102. إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ, that we are but a temptation onto you. So do not commit disbelief or unbelief. إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ فِتْنَةٌ, that we are certainly a temptation. We are nothing but a temptation onto you. So do not takfur, do not commit unbelief. Do not create unbelief. This is the servant who is marveled at all of his good works. The servant who marvels in it. This is the servant. So what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say with this servant? He says to the servant, the reality of your acts of ibadah, the reality of seeing it and placing significance in it and thinking that you are better than others because of it, or thinking that it is grand, the act of ibadah or the goodness that you do or the charity that you give or the people that you've impressed or the good words that you speak or the fast that you fast or the attendance that you attend or the knowledge that you have acquired or the words that people are inspired to listen to. All of this and more of the ibadah, if you stop and you admire it, because of the goodness of what it is, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you're lucky, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will come with this verse to you in your head, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will tell you and to caution you about what? That innama nahnu fitnatun, that verily we are just a fitna, we are but a temptation, we are nothing but a temptation. So do not go into unbelief. Do not reverse yourself into unbelief, into thinking that those things are what's going to save you. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who will save you. The servant, the best that the servant can do is to not even look at their acts of ibadah or consider it to be nothing. The best that the servant can do is to consider that their acts of worship is nothing. That's the best that the servant can do. Because in the end of the day, it is nothing. Because no one will enter Jannah based on their deeds. But we have to perform deeds. But no one will enter just because of it. Everyone will enter because of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everyone will enter because of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when the Prophet ﷺ said this to the companions, they asked him a question. They said, not even you, O Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And he is the rahmatul alameen. And he is the best of examples. And he is the best of creation. And he says, not even I will enter Jannah because of the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the servants we don't have to look at our good works in order for it to delude us. What we look at is the next opportunity to do even more. That's what we look at. We look at the next opportunity of that person who asks for help. We look at the next opportunity for that person who requires good words or something from us. We look at the next opportunity to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to put our heads down. We look at the next opportunity to do good, and we don't shut ourselves off from all the good that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens up in front of us to do. This is the servant who wants and who goes towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The servant who looks only at what's coming in front of him and not what is behind him. This is the servant who is successful, and the servant who has himma aliyah, who has ambition, and the servant who has aspiration that is high, because the highness of his ambition never allows this servant to be satisfied with what he has done. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from amongst this servant. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us and guide us, forgive us, have us, mercy upon us, protect us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect our children. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect our loved ones. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give them good health and long life. Those who are faced with difficulties, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ease their difficulties. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help and protect us. And protect those and cause those who are around us to be a fitna to us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to see the reality of what it is and to stick to it and to abstain from getting deceived by it and deluded by it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to always seek what is in front of us constantly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to draw closer to Him with every breath and every moment of our lives. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect all of our children, keep them on the straight path, make their footing firm in His deen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevate us in this world, next world. Help us to implement love of the Prophet ﷺ through his sunnah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to be good and sound Muslims upon the path, and help us to help others. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to be the means of help to others. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us, keep us safe. Those who are passed away, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant them His mercy, His maghfirah, and His shade. Those who are sick, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala heal them and cure them. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring shifa to them. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make from our homes, the homes of the mu'mineen, and make from our last words our best words. Subhanaka wa hamdik, shadu wa la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Ameen.
Thank you for listening to The Hikam with Shaykh Zahir Bacchus. Help Seekers Hub spread the light of guidance to millions around the world by supporting us through monthly donations by going to seekershub.org/donate. Your donations are tax deductible in the US and Canada.